If you want a woman to chase you forever, the first thing you must understand is this: human nature never changes. Not 5 years ago, not 50 years ago, and certainly not 500 years ago. People today think modern dating is new. They think it's evolved. But the same instincts that ruled the royal courts of Renaissance Italy are the same instincts that rule modern relationships. The same games, the same desires, the same fears, the same psychological patterns. And once you understand these instincts, once you understand how human behavior really works, you unlock the rarest advantage in dating. You stop chasing. You stop overextending. You stop explaining yourself or proving yourself, and you start becoming the kind of man a woman feels compelled to pursue. Not because you manipulate her, not because you play games, but because you finally understand the timeless laws that govern attraction. Machiavelli wasn't writing about kings and queens. He was writing about people, and people don't change. Ghosting didn't start with texting. Breadcrumbing didn't start with social media. Mixed signals didn't start with modern dating culture. All of these behaviors are ancient, just updated with nicer lighting and better phones. So if you want a woman to chase you, not for a moment, not for a week, but for as long as the connection exists, you must anchor yourself in the one truth that Machiavelli understood better than anyone. Human nature is eternal, and when you play by the rules of human nature, you stop losing. Let's begin.
Human behaviors behave according to very simple psychological patterns. They are predictable, consistent, and reliable. Technology changes the environment, but instinct controls the behavior. And in dating, this instinct expresses itself through 3 timeless forces: how people perceive you, how much of yourself you make available, and what emotional incentives they gain from being close to you. These 3 forces decide whether someone pursues you or forgets you. Modern men struggle not because they lack confidence or looks or status. Most struggle because they violate these 3 laws instinctively. They overshare, they overgive, they overexplain, they chase without awareness of the psychological cost. They become emotionally abundant, which destroys their perceived value. Or they misunderstand incentives and expect loyalty where no incentive exists. Machiavelli would say, "It is not reality that matters, but how reality is perceived." And this brings us to the first timeless law. Law 1. Appearances rule reality. People respond not to who you truly are, but to who you appear to be. Your intentions don't matter. Your honesty doesn't matter. Your good heart doesn't matter. None of it matters if the appearance you project communicates something weaker than your truth. If you appear uncertain, she will treat you like a man who is uncertain, even if you are not. If you appear emotionally desperate, she will treat you as a man who can easily be taken for granted. If you appear too available, too eager, too enthusiastic without calibration, she will interpret that as a lack of value. Human beings cannot process your inner world. They only process what you project. 500 years ago, nobles gained influence not because they were powerful, but because they appeared powerful. They forged alliances not because they were loved, but because they appeared valuable to align with. Their appearance shaped their reality. The same is true for you. The man who appears to have a full life becomes more attractive than the man who appears to orbit a woman. The man who carries himself with quiet self-respect appears more valuable than the man who seeks constant validation. The man who frames his existence with purpose and direction appears desirable without needing to speak. A woman cannot chase a man who appears beneath her level of value. But she will absolutely chase a man who appears superior in presence, in direction, in emotional discipline, and in purpose. Remember this. Your appearance is not deception. Your appearance is presentation, and presentation shapes desire. Now we move to the second timeless law. Law 2. Power comes from what you withhold. This is the law almost every man violates, because most men believe that the more they give, the more they will be appreciated. They think more attention equals more loyalty. They think more emotional openness equals deeper connection. They think more availability equals more devotion. But the opposite is true. Machiavelli observed that power is almost always held by those who reveal less, not more. By those who grant access sparingly, not constantly. By those whose presence feels limited, valued, intentional. When you give too much too quickly, you destroy the sense of scarcity that fuels desire. You convert your attention into a commodity. You make your presence routine, and nothing routine is ever pursued. A woman chases the man whose emotional access feels earned, not withheld out of games, but withheld out of dignity, out of purpose, out of genuine self-respect. A man who has options naturally behaves differently than a man who has none. But Machiavelli would tell you, you do not need actual options. You only need to behave like a man who could have them. That means your time is not infinite. Your emotional energy is not free. Your presence is not guaranteed. You don't respond immediately to every message, not because you want to create anxiety, but because you have a life that demands your attention. You don't reveal your entire emotional history on the second date, not because you want to hide, but because depth requires trust. You don't devote your entire schedule to someone you barely know, not because you want to be cold, but because you value your priorities. Scarcity creates value. Abundance destroys it. A woman will chase the man whose emotional presence feels meaningful, not excessive. She will chase the man who does not attempt to conquer her, but who invites her to move closer at her own pace. The third timeless law explains why chasing works this way.
Law 3. People act out of self-interest, not love. This is the law most men resist because they want relationships to be built purely on feeling. They want loyalty to be unconditional. They want affection to exist independently of the world around them. But Machiavelli understood something brutally honest. People behave according to incentives, and attraction is an incentive. A woman chases the man who makes her feel something she values: safety, excitement, admiration, challenge, validation, stimulation, security, respect. A woman does not chase because she decides to chase. She chases because the emotional incentive is there. She will move toward the man who elevates her life experience. She will invest in the man who enriches her emotional world. She will stay loyal to the man whose presence aligns with her deeper incentives. When those incentives disappear, attraction disappears. Not because she is disloyal, but because human nature is consistent. Your job is not to bend yourself to fulfill someone's desires. Your job is to understand the incentives that naturally make a woman move toward you. The incentive of admiration, the incentive of emotional safety, the incentive of stability, the incentive of mystery, the incentive of challenge, the incentive of respect. When these incentives are present, a woman does not need to be convinced to chase. She will feel compelled to. Now that we understand the laws, we must discuss something important. How do you use these truths without becoming manipulative? Because the purpose of Machiavellian awareness is not deceit. It is clarity. Awareness protects you from overextending. Awareness protects you from humiliation. Awareness protects you from investing in someone who does not value you. Awareness protects you from turning into a man who gives everything and receives nothing.
Ethical use of these laws means this: you control your appearance not to fool anyone, but to reflect your true value. You practice restraint not to manipulate anyone, but to maintain your dignity. You understand incentives not to exploit them, but to choose relationships where alignment naturally exists. A woman chasing you should not come from fear. It should not come from insecurity. It should not come from emotional chaos. It should come from respect, admiration, desire. The feeling that being close to you elevates her life experience. When she sees that you are a man grounded in yourself, when she sees that your time and attention are meaningful, when she sees that you do not crumble at the first sign of interest, when she sees that you do not center your entire life around her, she feels compelled to invest, to pursue, to move closer, to prove her value, to match your presence, to earn your emotional energy, not because you forced her to, but because human nature never changes. 500 years separate you from Machiavelli, but nothing separates you from the psychology he revealed. Women today are not new. Their instincts are not new. Their desires, fears, and emotional rhythms are ancient. The man who understands these instincts gains an advantage most men will never experience. When you accept that human nature is timeless, you stop playing the wrong game. You stop giving too much too soon. You stop chasing people who do not value you. You stop expecting loyalty without incentives. You stop living according to fantasy. And you begin to play by the rules that have governed attraction for centuries. Appearances shape reality. Restraint creates value. Incentives drive desire. Do this and you will never need to chase. Women will chase you. Not once, not occasionally, but consistently. Not because you are perfect, not because you are manipulative, but because you finally understand the truth. Human nature never changes. But now, you do.